Mark on the cloud.
Oh, I see.
It is recording. Cool.
Okay.
Well,
You guys can all see my screen? Not me?
yes.
Okay. So we will be going over technical interview practices in this workshop. Just kind of the things that we picked up over our going on our 3 years of college and interviewing and stuff. But feel free if you have anything to add, just like pop in and add it. So some of the 5 key steps when like interviewing for technical interviews, these are kind of the things that we suggest would be like layout. So first they're going to present you with a problem, and you'd want to first reread the question and ask clarifying questions, because you don't want to jump into the code or like jump into the problem without fully knowing what it is or what they're like telling you to do. So just ask like clarifying questions. I usually like rephrase the question in my own words and ask, is that like a correct interpretation of it? And the second step would be to make test cases. We're going to go into more of what test cases are and the examples, and just kind of think of edge cases. So edge cases is like, you have like the generic case with, if you put in X input, it should produce Y output. The edge cases might be like, what if the input were all zeros, or what if they're like infinite numbers? How would your code catch those cases? So test cases though is just like sample inputs. You're gonna see what it is in a second. And then the third step would be like pseudocode the answer. So don't actually jump straight into the code. You want to communicate with the interviewer and let them know what you're thinking about, your approach to this. You don't want them to guess what you're doing. You want to like verbally say what you're gonna do before you do it. So pseudocoding is good for communicating and also for planning out your thoughts. It doesn't have to be when you're coding it and you see like, oh, this way is actually better. So you don't have to stick to your pseudocode. It's not like concrete, but it's a good guideline to what you're gonna do and the process of how you're gonna do it. 4 would be to actually code the answer. Whilst you're coding it, you want to verbally like explain, like if you're making a for loop, I'm going through this for loop to iterate through X list to get X, to get like, I don't know, like name of something, right? So you want to code, you're going to code, and then whilst you're coding, you're going to verbally say or explain what it is you're coding. And 5, you're going to test your case inputs. So like what we wrote in number 2, I usually just grab those test cases and then just put them into my code. Sorry. Run them through my code like line by line, and your output should be like, it should match what was expected. So those are like the 5 key steps. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Or not? Yes, Frank.
Yeah. I was gonna add. So like these are like the essential key steps. Like I guess like preliminary steps. So you like can have like some success in your interview, but also keep in mind that the person who you're interviewing with, it's a human being, right? And when you go into an interview, we're all like nervous, and we're panicking or anxious. So like always remember that the person in the other side is there to help you, and is not like an adversary that wants to like keep you out of this company. No, it's like they actually want to hire you because you made it this far, that they considered you, they looked at your resume and said, oh, this person is worth interviewing, so they gave you their time. And yeah, so I think always keep that in mind. And I think before employing all these good steps, this really good practices, just remember just to chat with your, it's like treat it as a conversation, not as a um, you know as this like high stakes activity. So just like be chill, you know, ask your interviewer how his week is going, how his job is, and you know, just be genuine, I guess, and don't focus too much on like you know, the future. Just focus on the now at that moment, and then employ these steps.
Yeah, so step one should really be just be chill. But yeah, that's a good point. And also, they see potential in you. That's why you have the interview. So don't like freak yourself out and be like, "Oh, I'm not good enough." You are. That's why you got the interview. But it's nervous to. I mean, it's normal to be nervous. And also jumping off of what Frank was saying, like during the interview, the interviewer might like suggest something, like throwing you hints because they do want you to succeed and do well. And when they kind of put their input, they're not gonna say like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this, you should do that." They would kind of hint at it. So don't like overlook that and be like, "No, it's fine." They're actually like hinting you towards what you should do.
Yeah, and if anything is unclear right now, don't worry. We're going to try our best to replicate or mimic what we're saying, so you can like see, and perhaps you can take these bullet points and apply them to your interviews.
So we are gonna jump into a problem. We're gonna do this one together. Frank is gonna be the interviewer. I am no, I'm the interviewer. Frank is the interviewee. Hi Frank, how are you doing? Oh, he's late. Okay, bye.
Oh, sorry. Hello, hi, Vivi. How are you?
I am great. How has your day been?
My day has been okay. I'm a bit nervous because you know I got this really good opportunity to interview with you guys, and I'm excited to do my best and to give my best in this interview. I hope it goes well.
That's awesome. Okay, so I am presenting you with a problem. The problem goes as you are in charge of the cake for a child's birthday. You have decided to take the cake. You have decided the cake will have one candle for each year of their total age. They will only be able to blow out the tallest of the candles. Count how many candles are the tallest. In this problem, you're given an array of candle heights.
Okay, cool. Okay, so before we like, you know, before I give you like my thoughts on, maybe we could write some clarifications and like maybe we can run through an example on what to expect as the output, right? So from my understanding is that, okay, we are given an array or a list of candles, right? Say we have, let's say we have this array, right? 2, 3, 4, and 4, right? Just to have some some extra numbers, right? So our job is to basically go through, or our job is to distinguish which is the tallest candle and see how many of those tallest candles are within the array.
Right. And
Right.
the list you have are the candle heights.
Candle heights. Okay, so for example, the element at position 0 has a height of 2. The element at position 2 has a height of 3.
Yep.
And 4 and 4, right? Okay, cool. So essentially what we're doing is basically looking at this array, and so I'll write this. So we're looking at this array and asking, what is the max, right? And then we are able to retrieve this max and say, okay, how many times does this max appear? Is that the correct logic?
Yeah, that's spot on.
Okay, cool. Okay. And all right, so I think now it's a good time to go through like some edge cases on like, what would happen if the array is empty? if the array is empty? How would I need to approach that?
Well, if the array is empty, then the answer would be 0.
Yeah, so return 0 if it's empty, right?
Yeah.
Okay, as I expected. Cool. Cool. And can we have negative numbers in this array?
No, there's no negative height.
Okay, so nums is less than, sorry, I can say array at I is less than or equal to n being some arbitrary big number, and 0, right? Since 0 is included in the positive numbers in this case. Cool. And so I'm guessing if the length is 1, then just return that first element. Okay, cool. So they're all integers.
Yeah.
Just so no strings, no floats.
No doubles, no.
Cool. Okay, nice. So maybe I could write some pseudocode if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So here, all right, cool, pseudocode. All right, so my idea, as we said previously, is that, okay, we have to find the max of this array and then count how many times this max appears within that array. So from the get-go, we have to find the max. So a good way to find the max is simply iterating through linear search, right? We, at every instance of the array, we ask, okay, is this greater than our global max? Right, so for example, we can say for lm in candles, then we can say, okay, if the max candle is greater than lm, then we say, okay, if max candle is less than lm, right, because that means that we found a new maximum, then we will update the max candle to that current element. And essentially, max candle will be set to like the first number in the array, like array at 0, assuming that it's not empty. Right? Yeah. Is that cool?
Yes.
So cool. This allows us to find the max. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And so after we found the max, we need to iterate to that array again and say, okay, how many times did this maximum value appear within the array? And we can do that by setting a counter variable and just updating every time we see the maximum number.
It sounds good.
Okay, so I could describe that as counter, let's say, right? And start that as 0. So we iterate one more time for lm in candles. And so if lm is equal, which is double equals, right, is equal to the max candle, which is the maximum candle that we found in the previous step, then we will say counter plus equals 1. And that way we find how many occurrences of that max element happen or appear in that array. And then simply we return it. We return counter.
Yep.
Right? Cool. Yeah, so if my logic is correct, I think this should work, right? Or what do you think?
It sounds right.
Okay, is it cool if I start coding?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Okay, so I like to code this in Java, right? Okay, cool. I'll code this in Java then. Okay. So before I take care of any edge cases, I think we can just directly, get the meat and bones of the whole function out of the way, and then fine tune the little edge cases that we have, right? So I'm gonna start doing this by simply iterating through the candles array, right? Okay, so for int I is equal to 0, I is less than the candles dot length. And then we're gonna iterate through that array. And every time we change, we're gonna change it by 1 because we need to go through every single element in this array. Right? Okay, and so we can simply just comment this as, okay, iterate through array. Then we say, okay, if candles at I is greater than the max, which I haven't defined yet, and we're going to set this current candles at I, equal to the new max. So first, let me define the maximum. So I'm gonna define this as max candle, which is going to be equal to, let's say, the first element of candles. Okay, I'm forgetting to put that. Okay, so if the current candle is greater than the max candle, then that max candle, then that current candle equal to the max candle. Candles that are semicolon. Cool. Okay, so at this point we found the max. So we can see, check that current, check that candle at I is the max. So this code will, wow, that's really small. Very good. Maybe if you put it in percent, can you do it?
Percent. Oh,
Oh no, you can't edit it.
it's larger.
Okay, cool. Sorry for the noise. Wow. Okay, so now we need to find how many times this maximum candle appeared in the array. So the way we can do this is by setting a counter. We set this equal to 0, and then we simply iterate through this again. So we can say for I is equal to 0.
I don't see you writing. Oh, okay. I can't go in percent.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so for I is equal to 0, I is going to be less than candles dot length I plus plus. And so we're going to check if candles at I is equals to the max candle, then we're going to simply update our counter by a delta, by a change of 1. So +1, right? And then that means we simply found all the occurrences of that max candle. And at that point, we can simply say a return counter.
Yep.
Or, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it fit.
Is that cool?
That is cool.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, so maybe I could run through what I wrote real quick one more time and check if I made any mistakes in my syntax. So initially we set the max candle to the first element, right? Then we iterate from the 0 index to the last index of the candles array, and we check for the maximum value. Once we found the next maximum value, we update it. And then after we found the max value within that candle array, we create a new variable called counter. And that we're gonna set to 0. And I just realized I made a mistake. So
Yeah.
Set that to int. Yeah.
And
Ah.
it's dot size
Dot size.
for list. Yeah. That's okay. So
Yeah.
like a little like mistake like this, they wouldn't really take place off in like an interview.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say something about that afterwards. But size, right? Yeah. Thank you for spotting that. Okay. So then we simply iterate through the array again and check how many times we saw the max candle within this array. And every time we see it, we add a +1 to our counter. And after we found all the instances of that max candle, we simply return that value.
Looks good.
Right.
Do you want to go through it with some of your test cases?
Okay. Sure. So where can I write the test cases? Oh, back here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we give it that same test case that I introduced previously, right? So we're gonna pass in this array into the function, into the method, and then we're gonna say, okay, max candle is gonna equal to 2. Then we're currently at this array, at this index, right? So we say, okay, is this element greater than max candle? No, right? Okay, so we just move forward. Is 3 greater than 2? Yes. So max candle becomes 3. So we move up, we move to the next element. Is 4 greater than 3? That's true again. So we update our max candle. Is 4, so then we go to the next element and we ask that same question. Is 4 greater than 4? No, so we stay at max candles equal to 4. Then we have counters equal to 1, right? Equal to 0, I'm sorry. And then we start from the beginning again. So we ask, okay, is this element equal to max candle? No, so we move on. Is 3 equal to 4? No, so we move on. Is 4 equal to 4? Yes, so we update. Counter becomes 1. We move on to the next element. We access 4 is equal to 4. That's true. So we update counter one more time and simply return counter.
Looks good. I always get asked this at the end of interviews and stuff, especially when the big O notation is like n squared, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, they always like to ask, is there a way to make your algorithm smaller?
Runtime complexity wise, which is how many times we're going through every single element. I think we're at our best. The current runtime complexity of this algorithm is O of n, because we're simply just going through the array once, where we're not going through every element in the array twice, even though we are in 2 separate for loops. That's basically equal to O of 2 times n. But since we are able to, omit the constants, we simply just say O of n. So runtime complexity, I don't think we can do it any better, because in order to find the maximum, we have to go through every single element. Now through space complexity, we're basically constant O of 1, because we only have our space doesn't increase periodically, because we only have 2 integers that we need to keep track of. So space doesn't increase. So I think that's our best.
Yeah. And the second question that you usually ask is, what would be the runtime of your program?
Yes.
It would be like switched. It would first ask, what's the runtime of your algorithm, and then is there any way to make it smaller? But you answered both in like that one question.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe a way we can improve this is perhaps like readability. Instead of having two for loops, we can simply do this by using a map.
Yeah.
Though this would increase space complexity because we would be keeping track of all the instances of each all the accounts of each element within the array. So essentially, our space complexity will become the length of the candles array.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, but I haven't really thought this through, to be honest. I was thinking of putting like int counter equals 0, and then if you find a new max, then set the counter to 0. So it starts over, but if they're equal, then counter goes up by 1. So then you only iterate do one for loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, that's a good.
But either way, it'd still be the same runtime of oven. So
Yeah, this is more concise, I think. This is definitely better.
you're hired. Okay. Does anyone have any
Bingo
questions
hired.
about our problem 1 or comments? Cool.
I have one comment actually. Yeah, so usually I code in Python, right? So you saw that some of my syntax was off, right? So a good thing to always do is at the end, when you finish coding your thing, your whole function, tell the interviewer, is it okay if I just run through my program one more time to check syntax? And that usually helps you a lot because that means, you're cautious and you're cognizant of like, hey, I might have made a mistake. So you double check your code. So that always looks good on your part. And that has worked for me. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I think in one of my interviews previously, I have forgot the exact name of the function for some class. I forgot the exact name for that function, but I remember the gist of it. And I remember the parameters that it takes. And I communicated with my interviewer and I was like, I forgot the exact name of this function, but it does like, for example, if it got like the max of whatever, and it takes in parameters X and Y. And he was like, yeah, it's no problem. Like, it's difficult to remember every function title. We could just call it max and put the parameters. And like, he understood like what the function was. He probably knew the name of it. But he was like, it's no worries. Like, we'll call it max for this problem and you can go about as that. Yeah.
I have a question for Simon and Jefferson. What else would you guys have done if this was like an actual interview?
Simon, you want to go first?
All right. So speaking on behalf of Jefferson, normally like in the bigger like tech companies at least, I've interviewed for like I believe Bloomberg, and they really care about like a lot of like space complexity as well as like what kind of types you're using, right? So like a more clarifying question you could have asked also was like instead of like integers, maybe like specify like what kind of types they might be like specifying, maybe like doubles, maybe longs, I don't know, like big ints or I don't know, like stuff like that. That'll help a lot too.
Yeah, I agree with Simon. And on top of that, like in the beginning, when you're trying to figure out more about the question, you could ask more questions about the task. Like I see number 4, you have negative numbers. You could have just asked, will negative numbers appear in the array? Or ask if the array has been sorted, because if it's sorted, it makes a big difference in terms of the amount of time it would take. But it was a good question overall.
Yeah, that sorting one was actually a good point. It would reduce the time if it was sorted. That is a good question to ask. Are there 2 Jefferson Wongs?
Yeah, Simon's the actual one, and I am the regular.
Yeah, there's 2 Jefferson Wongs.
So now we're gonna do like a second problem. Frank is gonna like walk you guys through it, and then it's gonna be more collaborative. So like the steps that we just did, we'll do it with everyone's input.
So I should read the question. Problem 2. Cool. All right. Two friends, Anna and Brian, are deciding how to split the bill at a dinner. Each will pay for the items they consume. Brian gets the check and calculates Anna's portion. We must determine if this calculation is correct. For example, assume the bill has the following prices. Bill is equal to 2, 4, and 6. Anna declines to eat item K bill at position 2, which is 6, which costs 6, right? If Brian calculates the bill correctly, Anna will pay 2 plus 4 divided by 2 is equal to 3. If he includes the cost of bill at position 2, he will calculate 2 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 2 is equal to 6. In the second case, he should refund to Anna. Cool.
So what would be some questions that we can ask about this problem 2? Oops.
I would say, can we run through some cases, because this was confusing to me. I didn't understand.
Okay, yeah. So what would be some test cases? If we had the input 2, 4, 6, is that the one they have? 2, 4, and 6. What would the output be? The question is basically asking how much would Anna pay? But if Anna said she did not eat bill 2, which costs $6, she's not going to pay for the $6. So that means she's only going to pay for what she ate, and then they're splitting the bill. So that's, she only ate the item that costs $2 and $4, right? And then they're splitting the bill, so that's divided by 2. So that would give you 3. The output should be 3. But if she ate all of it, then, you know, it would be all of that combined. I can't type, guys.
It might be easier if you give the parameters of the function.
Yeah. So the function, I think for this problem, you get to make it like whatever you want, but you are given this array right here. Oh wait, no, you don't make it. You're given this array of the prices of that are on the bills, like the list of the prices that of the stuff they ate, and K is the items that Anna did not eat, and B is the bill, I believe. Right, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the parameters. So K is the items that Anna did not eat. We can write that down here. K equals Anna did not eat item. And B is total of bill. So what would be some questions?
I would ask, okay, can we have negative numbers? That's like the other one. And another one would be, I don't know who said it, if Jefferson, actual or fake Jefferson said it. Is it sorted? I don't know if this will help.
Mm-hmm. There wouldn't be any negative numbers because, well, if there was negative, I think the restaurant would owe you money. So that would be a no. Is it sorted? We're gonna make it unsorted. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions they would want to add to this problem?
Is it integers or floats, doubles, longs?
What did we put it as actually? We put it as integers. It could be, I think the problem leak code said integers, that's why we used integers, but if it was double, then these would be double and so on, right?
I think the k would still be an integer because k is the position of the item in the
Yeah.
list.
Bill would be double.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be some pseudocode we could go through.
Yeah. Let's see. Is K always going to be a valid index? Oh,
That's a good question. Yes. Well, actually, that would be a good question. What if the function took in a k that was not part of the array? What would that output?
mhm.
So the test case would probably be if the function, this is the array, but if the array was like a length of 4 and they wanted to, and Anna did not eat element 5, there is no element 5. So what would the output of that be?
Yeah, you have to like raise an exception or be like, nah, you can't do this. Yeah. Another question Jefferson pointed out. What if the bill is odd? Oh, wait, actual assignment. Assignment. What do you think, Jason?
It would probably just do like a ceiling or something. I don't know. Maybe a ceiling or a floor.
Yeah. I think I mean, it wouldn't be that much of a change if we just return a double, right?
Yeah, not really. No. Well, yeah.
We'll just have to change the signature and how we save the number.
Yeah. I don't know why it is void actually.
Oh, we have. I think it is void because then we need to print bon appetit if it's like split even, or if the split is correct.
It's void because you're not really returning it. You're just printing. So.
Okay.
Okay, so the output should be printed. From the question, it didn't really say like what you're returning. So one of the questions you can ask is, what would the output be? Would I return an integer or would I print it? The interviewer can say it should be printed. In that case, if it was an odd number, you just print out the whatever the computation was. So we'll save it as a double, like the answer would be saved as a double. So if it is an odd number and it has like decimal places, it would print out the decimal places. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be some pseudocode.
Okay, so we first need to iterate through the array, right?
And what would iterating through the array, what would be the purpose of this?
We need to check if we need to check out like the sum of all the things that Anna claims that she didn't eat.
We need to calculate the sum of the stuff that Anna ate.
Or the stuff she didn't eat, right? Or I is not equal to K.
Well, I is the stuff she did not eat. So not equal to K would be the stuff she ate.
Okay, so the other one.
So we're gonna go through the array and calculate the cost of all the items Anna ate. And what will we do next after we finish the array?
Yeah. So that means we only have to calculate. Yeah. Then we divide that by 2.
Cost by 2 to that would be to determine how much Anna's split cost would be.
Yeah, and then we check if that split is equal to B. Otherwise, get the difference between B and the cost.
And what would that give us?
That would mean that if it's equal, then everything is good. Then bon appetit.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we have to print out the thing that we have to return to Anna.
Okay, so if the split cost is equal to the bill, that means it was equally divided?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go into the code, right? What do we need to declare and what do we need to write?
Okay, so we need to find like a cost integer.
Sorry.
That keeps
You're
track
right.
of so we say int. What is there? Total cost of a bill. Is correct?
Yeah.
Right, and then we iterate through everything, right? Bill size. And then what do we say? If something, then do something. Cool.
Okay. So now we're going through the bill and what will we include in this if statement? So in our pseudocode, we're calculating the cost of the items Anna ate. And we said that K is the stuff that she did not eat. So how would we get the stuff that she ate?
Jason, I call you.
Wait, what?
How would we get the stuff that she ate?
Basically, you would, as long as I is not equal to K, then you would constantly add up the cost of the price of the item in the index, index I.
Yes.
So I naught equals K, and then we accumulate that to the cost.
Yeah, so it would be bill.get I, and then that would be it.
So this checks off this. Then we divide it. Is this divide or is it the other way? No, it's this way. By 2. I don't think that would work. Cost divided by 2. And that checks off this one. And if the split cost is equal to the bill, otherwise return, otherwise get the difference between the bill and the split cost. How would we do that?
Enzar, I call you.
It's like Pikachu. I pick you.
Enzar?
I think he's by the doctors with his dad.
Francis.
We are making a feedback survey.
Okay.
So what is the question basically asking? Is it equal to the bill or is it not? So if equal, that's an if, right? We output something. If it's not, we output something else. I think we output one update in this question.
I could type it. System.out.println on Apple.
So like we said, like I usually refer back to my pseudocode because that's like my guideline, I guess. But there's 2 different ways to write pseudocodes if you haven't noticed. Frank likes to write it in more like kind of code, but English kind of way, right? So it's kind of a mix of the 2. I just like writing it in like words, you know. So yeah, so in this one, if the cost is equal to the bill, then you know, bon appetit. Is that?
That is not how you spell bon appetit.
And if it's not, then we want to get the difference between the bill and the split cost. So that's B, which is bill, and then cost, which is the cost that we calculated. And that's it for this problem. And then afterwards, you know, go through the test cases and just go through it. I usually like in my interviews, I would like go through it on the same page. So what did we write? 2, 4, and 6. 2, 4, 6. And then I would usually just take like, okay, so we have this input. I'm going to take the first element and pass it through. Well, I would pass the whole thing through, right? So this will be passed in. Let's say she did not eat 6, which is the second position, and then B is the bill, which was what, 2? I think it was 6. So then I would pass all of this into my function and then go through as according. Oopsies. So int equals 0. I usually do it on paper, but I would keep track of what the variable are equal to. So we go into this for loop, I equals 0. I would keep track of I and keep track of count all my variables. Then I is less than bill.size. That is correct because 0 is less than the size, which is 3. If I, which is 0, is not equal to k, k is 2. We accumulate the cost to bill.get I. Get I is currently 0, so we get the first element, which is 2. And we add that onto cost. Cost is 0. So now cost equals 2. And so on. That's kind of how I go through my test cases after I finish coding. And then I ask, do you guys have any questions?
I think this was good.
And now we just want to go through Big O notation a bit. So in Big O notation, there are worst case. There's also average case, but we're going to be focused on worst case and best case, and just kind of like at a high level of what it is. But before I do want to get into that, I am pretty curious. What are some of the questions you guys have been asked in your interviews? Because I know you just graduated, so I'm sure there's been a couple. Jefferson and Simon.
For me, when I did my Google interview, there was a lot on dynamic programming, and I actually had data structures, so I had to develop like a structure for Spotify and how they handle music and genres, and we'd have to return like let's say the max of country music. So I'd look into dynamic programming, trees, and recursive versus iterative algos.
For the people who haven't taken data structures or high level courses, do you want to like explain a bit about what dynamic programming is?
Yeah, we could pass that to Simon. Simon, you want to explain that? I graduated like 2-3 years ago, so my grasp on algorithms and data structures isn't as strong as back then.
Yeah, so I guess dynamic programming, the short answer to your question is it's basically a way to turn an algorithm or like a specific amount of steps you have currently and try to maximize it like as efficiently as possible by by only like some questions have like are able to like use this like big word like dynamic programming, but basically like what it is it takes like the values that you previously saw before and use those values so you don't have to recompute them again. That's like the short answer to your question. And going to your other question, what questions have I seen before? Like Jefferson said, there's a lot of like dynamic programming questions for like the bigger companies because they are used a lot to like help maximize efficiency in like, the real world problems. But a lot of times it depends on what specific like team you apply for. For example, let's say you apply for like something that has to do with data, right? They're gonna care more about like the space complexity or something as compared to like a time complexity of like one specific problem. So like a questions I got asked before was like, if you were to compute a whole list of numbers, right? Like I don't remember the exact question, but basically there in Java there's this thing called overflow. So once you like reach a certain like number, right? It's like I believe 2 to the 32 for integers. Once you get that past that certain number, it's going to be an overflow, and then the numbers are going to be like really wonky. So like I don't know, like just study up on that. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't had too much because I took data structures last semester, so most of my interviews wasn't like at that level, but I had one. I think it was for Capital One, I think. But they just had us. They had me make like, I guess like the structure of like a bank, with the different classes in Java and stuff like that. But that was kind of my interview after data structures. I have yet to approach one with dynamic programming or yeah.
For me, Simon, and Eric, we've never actually learned dynamic programming at Queens College. Like there wasn't much to prepare us for interviews, so your best bet is honestly like Elite Code and Geeks for Geek.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I put the sources down. Oh, this is a really cool one. There was a CUNY alumni. I believe he's from Queens College. One of my professors actually put us onto this link. He made this website, which is like 30 days to get ready for your next technical interview. And it's super resourceful. Basically all these stuff that you need to, or he would advise to study. So he has like all the links and stuff. probably won't take 30 days, probably much longer, but it has like a whole bunch of useful links. So I would advise anyone who's preparing for a technical interview to go and like check us out. But yeah, big O notation. So there's worst case and best case. And at a very high level, I kind of think of it like how many times have you iterated a certain array? And so, yes, we'll be posting the slides, I think in the Discord, or if not on the link tree. So how many times have you iterated through like a list or something, right? For example, if this is O of n because we've only went through this list called Bill once, but an example of like if we iterated through another time, right? If we went through like in j equals 0 equals I, no, equals 0, then j is less than I or something like that, right? Like we're going through the bill again. And so here we have a nested for loop, which is a for loop inside of a for loop. And when we're going through a list or an array or anything twice, that gives us the big O notation of O of n squared. If we only go through it once, like we did in each of these problems, it would be just O of n. Let's say we have a nested array, a nested for loop of like 3 for loops inside each other, right? That would be O of n cubed. So that's just kind of how I think of it at a very high level. Haven't been asked any big O notation questions that were like more complicated than just figuring out the runtime of the algorithm in terms of O of n. But yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, Frank?
Yeah, I think it's important to like know this concept, but also like, let's say you told you to implement like a quick sort. Some things are just like you can memorize. Like I know quick sort is like n log n. So, and like binary trees are like, I don't even know, but it's like sometimes these like complexities are, you're able to memorize them. So if you could just do that. But like if you're writing something from scratch, it comes handy to know how your runtime complexity is increasing by the number of steps that you're adding. But yeah, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. We're juniors, so my interviews from freshman and sophomore year, when they asked about big O notation, it was just basically like, I think the highest I had was like O of n squared, which is just 2 nested for loops because I was doing something with 2 arrays, so I had to go through each of them. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to go over in this slide. Is there any questions about it though? Cool. So yeah, that's about it for this event. We hope it helped. The incentive of it was just kind of, because I know everyone who applied to CUNY Tech Prep has their interviews coming up. I think they do the hacker rank first and they have like a next interview. I don't know if they're gonna change it, being that we're all in a pandemic and everything's online. So that was just kind of like, we wanted to do a review of like technical interview practices, and we hope this helped. We're gonna post the slides somewhere. We'll let you know in the Discord where exactly, probably on the link tree, and we're probably gonna send it on the Discord as well. And these are just some resources that were good to study from. And that's about it. So thank you all for being here with us.
Before we go, I wanted to introduce Eric. He's a graduating senior. Along with Simon, he's an engineer at Chase, and Jefferson, who's working at Google as an engineer. And if you guys have any feedback for us and what we can do for technical interviews.
You want to start, Simon?
Sorry, what was the question? My bad.
Feedback for like what we can do when we do an interview.
Yeah, so normally how the interview is broken down is they're going to go over mainly the resume portion in the first, I would say, like quarter of your interview. So be prepared to like talk a lot about yourself and like what kind of work you did, and try to impress the interviewer. Like give off a good impression of like what you have accomplished so far, right? And then like that's only like half the battle, and then yeah, like the other half is like the actual like coding interview itself. For that, honestly, the only tip I can really give you is like just keep on grinding out like LeetCode problems and like just a lot of like questions, you know, like a lot of like the problems I see at least, they have like similar like similar like I don't know, like algorithms, right? Like the similar like process of like how to do them. It's just like worded a little differently. So once you see those like patterns, you're able to like do it for like a majority of the other like questions. But yeah, definitely if you can, if you're like yeah, if you have like an interview scheduled or something, try to get like LeetCode Premium because that helps a lot.
What does LeetCode Premium offer? Or why would
Yeah,
you?
so
Yeah.
yeah. So LeetCode Premium, it offers, I believe, like tailored questions for the specific company. So when I was applying for like a Bloomberg at least, it had like a whole database of like Bloomberg specific questions that they asked and like how frequent they asked it. And it really helped because normally they ask you like, so during like the actual interview process, they're gonna ask you like between like 2 to 3 questions for a single like interview session. And I believe my first interview with them, I saw like 2 of the questions from LeetCode that they re-asked for my interview, and I only had to like like come up with one other interview for when I took the interview at least. And also like I forgot who it was, but like I think you're the 30dayscoding.com thing. LeetCode Premium also has something similar where they help you like practice more on like data structures, trees, and like all that, which are really useful.
For me, I'd say always know a type of sorting algorithm. Like always just keep it there because you'd have interview questions where it requires sorting, but it's not going to be sorted. So your interviewer is going to want to expect you to know some type of sorting to solve it. And always have like a type of hashing ready at hand, whether it's like hash sets, hash tables, or tree map. Because like I don't know if you guys learned tree map, but it gives you what the largest key and the smallest key. So that's very useful in different scenarios where it's also an O of 1 time complexity.
How long would you guys say you guys studied for your technical interviews for?
I could say I spent my final semester at Queens College basically studying. Like I didn't really care for any classes because it was just like if I got a C and I could graduate and then I could get a really good job offer, like that's all that matters. And then once you do get past the interview, you won't ever really need to use algorithms ever again. So just grind it as much as you can until you're done with the interview.
I agree with that.
And your interviews were around like May-ish?
I interviewed for Google from October to December, and I joined in March of last year. So tomorrow is my 1 year date at Google.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would say it really depends on like when you applied also, because they have like different like seasons of what like when they accept like people coming into their company. So it really depends.
Yeah. I'm asking because we're not that far from applying either. So yeah, no, that's great to know.
I have a question for Jefferson and Simon. I know you guys were in CUNY Tech Prep, so how was your experience there? And like, what should we expect for interview questions if you remember them?
Oh, it's been a while. I think for me, when I did my interview for CTP, the questions weren't that bad. They were probably on the same level as like the interview questions you guys asked today. So as long as you are able to like answer like these questions at least, I'd say you guys are fine and like set.
For me, I joined CTP in 2017, so I think all the managers at that time are now gone. But my interview was pretty basic. It wasn't more of a tech interview, but I did a lot more behavioral. So I was just talking to my interviewer for 30 minutes just about the projects I've done. I'm not sure how it is now, so it could be interesting just to see what the interviewer is working on, since they're not actually CTP managers, but they're working engineers in the field.
For those who don't know CUNY Tech Prep, can you give like a really brief summary about it?
Yeah, so CUNY Tech Prep basically teaches you guys like how to code like real world applications. For example, when I was in CUNY Tech Prep, we made a full stack application with JavaScript and mainly like React framework. And we built like a whole front end and back end. And that's really like basically how like the whole like websites are deployed and designed. So it really teaches you like the whole like software development lifecycle of like how like a app is created from start to finish.
Yeah, my experience was pretty much the same there. Does anyone have questions for like me or Simon regarding just experience in general or how we got to our respective companies?
I'm curious to know.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll go first. So I joined Chase. Let's see, it's been probably like 4 or 5 months now. But basically, back in right when I graduated QC, I think they had an offer or like they posted a job position, and I applied for that. Right. So how I prepared for that was basically just grind a lot of lead code. And like I said, I grinded a lot of the lead code premium questions they had specific to Chase. And a lot of their questions revolved around like a lot of like dynamic programming. So I just mainly just try to focus on that, as well as the same time try to like, get my GitHub like up to date and make sure like it looks like, so if you guys ever had like a GitHub account, you notice like how much commits you are doing by like the amount of like I guess green you have. So I try to get that like as green as possible, make it like a field of grass or something. And then because then like some of the recruiters actually look at your GitHub repos and they can see like how like committed you are to like developing like an application. So definitely try to focus on that as well.
So just for like some backstory for you guys, me and Simon have known each other probably throughout almost all of college. And it was easier for us in that whenever we were doing lead code or we were coding, we'd always work together. It's kind of easier to have someone to code with in that you guys could discuss solutions, potential solutions, and time complexity before you actually do something. I actually graduated in December and I joined Google through their Eng residency program. So what that is if you're not fully qualified enough to be like a L3 engineer at Google, you are basically like almost there, but you just need a little training. The NRES is a 1-year rotational training program that does take people from CUNY. I know quite a lot of people from CUNY that went there. And once you pass that initial interview, they ramp you up to Google standards. And then after a year or even 6 months, you can convert to become a full-time engineer at Google.
I have a question. I know like myself and just a lot of students as well struggle with just getting to the interview stage. So what would be your advice on standing out or getting your resume and stuff past just application?
There's no real like 100% like surefire method, right? It's just like a lot of like, it depends on mainly on luck and like I guess timing. But a way you can like maybe like make your resume stand out is maybe because I know a lot of companies they host like workshops. I know for Amazon at least they had like a workshop of like how to tailor your resume specific for Amazon. And basically, if you go to those workshops, they'll tell you like what they're looking for. So each company, like it's like a really general question because then each company looks for different things, right? Because then obviously, like all companies aren't created equal. And yeah, there's no like one answer to your question, but I would say just try to like make your projects stand out from the rest. Try to like make like ideas that maybe like someone else hasn't created before. Like for example, like if like a company sees like 10,000 applicants doing like a calculator for something, right? It's not really going to stand out compared to like I don't know, like use like machine learning to like parse I don't know like data or something. That's going to really stand out, compared to like a simple calculator.
Yeah, there's also companies use basically machines to read resumes as well before it goes to a hiring manager or HR agent. They do use trigger words. So if you have like a bunch of technological tools that you use that other people don't really use, put that in and try to make your portfolio stand out. Because I've heard of a lot of recruiters going on an actual engineer's portfolio to see what they've done versus the other people. And likewise to what Simon said, a unique and distinct project that's really good can put you over the top from others. Like I think a year ago, Clement Miscalu, he's like a YouTuber, ex Google, ex Facebook. He had this visual, what was it, sorting or algorithm program, and a lot of people started doing that. So over time, that started to lose value, and people would need to create some new ones to help enhance their project. But Eric is actually currently in the process of looking for a job, so maybe he'll give some experience on how it's going right now.
Hey guys, thanks Jefferson. So for me, I recently tailored my resume with a bunch of other computer science friends and engineer friends, and basically they told me that I should put all the classes and all their data structure and like their apps. So I'm currently taking like 381, which is using ITK. It's a imaging processing library. So what I do is I put that onto my resume, and they said it's going to enhance it because, as Jefferson and Simon said, the the trigger words are most likely going to come from those experience apps and software developments that you've like used. And then I'm still currently looking as well with all of you guys. And I think those are the trigger words you should be like putting on. So like data structure, you can put on like all the algorithms or just data structure in itself. If you're going to take, and you will be taking 381 classes, you should put in all the algorithms that you learn from those classes as well, or like the apps you use to code in those classes. And that's about it.
No, thank you guys. That was really helpful. Actually, I'm sure people will use that for their futures.
I definitely will. So thank
Yeah.
you all for being here, and thank you for your insightful experiences, I guess, and advice. I found it useful. I honestly did. And I'm sure a lot of people here did as well.
Yeah, for sure. Not only, sharing your experiences makes us feel better because it makes us feel like we're not alone in this, right? But yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
especially if you're in Queens College, it's just all outside work. I feel you guys. When I first started Leak Code, I had no clue what was happening.
Yeah.
Me. But I do have to go. So thank you all for coming out and also just taking your time out of your day just to be here. We really appreciate it, and we hope this event was helpful in any way possible. I think Francis has a feedback form.
Yeah, if you guys can, just fill out the forms for us so we know like what to do for like our next events.
Yeah, and
for
ways that we
one.
can improve upon like these events. Yeah, what is our next event? I think it's the one with the girls who code.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
that's the one. Yeah.
P5 Jazz,
Yeah,
perhaps.
that's either the 9th or the 14th, but we will let you guys know. We're doing a collab event with Girls Who Code and Isaac.
Saka?
Saka. And
Something like that.
yeah, it's just gonna be a cool event where it's just similar to this one where we'll have some people come in and just like talk about their experiences, and it'll be like an open-ended panel. The next workshop after that is HTML/CSS intro. I know like some people from the first feedback form was interested in learning that, so we'll have a workshop on that. And then the following one, I believe it's an API, or no, I think it's JS5, right, Frank? Yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
And in the future, perhaps we can have Simon or Jefferson to do like a Q&A session with us, like just for that. Maybe more people will come join our call as well.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned you have like a group that you all went through the 4 years at QC with. You can invite them too. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. Just reach out to us.
Great. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming to this event, and I hope you guys have a good spring break, and I hope all the midterms that you guys are taking go well as well.
Me too. All right, bye.
You guys take care.